Hello again, friends. Keith with Bulletproof RC, and I'm back with you to share an update on the Losi Rock Rey. In my last video, I mentioned a few upgrades I wanted to install in this vehicle and a few tuning aspects that I also wanted to perform. And I have not gotten to those yet, simply because I was waiting on a servo and also another part from Losi, an aluminum servo mount. Had a couple of people message me since my last video asking me were these upgrades necessary and where I was running the vehicle, how I was running it, what I was doing with it. Well, I plan to make this vehicle versatile to where I can crawl with it, where I can bash with it, where I can run fast. So these are the upgrades I've chosen. Now again, this hobby is, you can make it your own. I believe every RC has a chance to be great. And I believe the Losi Rock Rey is a lot closer to being a performer out of the box than a Yeti Rock Racer. Yeti Rock Racer, the one I have, is quite fun. It's the one you see over here. I featured it in several of my videos. I've got quite a number of parts in this vehicle, but it is it's insane. So what I plan to do is make the Losi on par with that vehicle. Now, the Yeti, out of the box, torque steered, had some tuning issues. So, I had to do a few things to it. So, the Losi is not alone with its need for improvements, but I believe the Losi is close to being a very durable vehicle and a very great handling vehicle. There's a couple of problems right out of the box that also plague the Baja Rey, and that's the bearings for one thing. I talked about that in the last video. I'm not going to get into it, but I ordered some 5x10 Acer ceramic high performance bearings just to install in the front end and the rear end where the ring and the pinion gears meet in the front and rear end. I had a problem with those blowing in the Baja Rey, and since nothing has changed since Losi released this vehicle, which is the same platform, other than they've added larger tires and a more torquey power system with a 2800 kV motor, I can only imagine that those bearings will probably blow quicker. So I wanted to go ahead and address that before that issue happens, because every time a bearing blows with a ring and pinion gear, your gears will take a little damage, and I want to prevent that on the front end. So my two areas of concern are torque steer and cogging. The stock 2800 kV motor in this vehicle cogs pretty badly, and if you've ever tried to crawl with a vehicle that cogs, you know that that's a no-no. I'm not going to go over the same things I talked about in my last video, but I plan to alleviate this problem with a 2200 kV Leopard motor that you see right there. It's a 1/8 scale motor, it's 3674, and it'll fit nicely in this vehicle. I plan to go up to 15 tooth. This motor has not cogged me in the past when I used it in a monster truck that was 1/8 scale, and I'm hoping that it will not cog in this vehicle. This ESC is a fantastic ESC when paired with the right motor, so I'm planning to correct this problem this way. The 2800 I plan to use in another vehicle that has smaller tires that will alleviate some of the noticeable cogging. The servo I've chosen, because the stock servo in this vehicle is pretty weak, is the Power HD 23 kilogram waterproof servo. In a second I'll put the specs up here. If you can see those, the camera will adjust. At 6 volts, which is what this ESC provides, you're looking at 0.12 transit speed and 319.4 ounce-inches of torque. So it's pretty admirable specs for a waterproof servo that is in the price range of this, which I got for, I think, $35. As I mentioned in my last video, I believe that the center diff fluid and the front diff fluid is a little bit too light in this vehicle for any kind of crawling. It's set up strictly for speed. Under power, your center diff will unload to the front end, and if either of the front tires loses traction, or you lift one off the ground, your front end's going to diff out pretty badly. So I plan to alleviate that with 500K fluid in the front and 1 million weight in the center, which I believe will make this vehicle perform like my Yeti, because my Yeti Rock Racer has 500K in the front and it has a lock center transmission. The 1 million weight will not lock the center transmission completely, but it will help to alleviate the front end, all the power bleeding to the front end through the center diff with the light fluid that's there now. And of course, I mentioned in my last video, I'm using SCTE turnbuckles, the Losi steering rack that is for the Baja Rey and Rock Rey, and the Losi servo mount that is for the Baja Rey and Rock Rey. So anyway guys, that'll do it for this portion of the video. I'm going to get to wrenching, get these parts installed, and I'll come back with you a minute after I get them installed and try them to see if I've alleviated the cogging, torque steer, and the crawling issues of the thin diff fluids. Okay, got all the parts installed guys. Ran a couple of battery packs through it, and man, night and day difference. Wow. Man, tightening up that front end, changing the motor out, changing those diff fluids out. What a difference. This thing is a completely different vehicle. I was cogging with this thing out of the box. It was torque steering. It was just literally undrivable on 3S. Now, with 3S in it, you can blast the throttle and it tracks straight, and the steering is has plenty of torque, able to hold those wheels down straight, and just amazing different guys. The thicker diff fluids allow this thing to crawl over obstacles that even my SCX-10 couldn't get over in my backyard. Of course this is bigger, but that might be why. But yeah, it's a world of difference guys. No way to show you the upgrades because the body's on, the cage is on. It was a lot more difficult to work on this than it was the Baja Rey. The Baja Rey, you could take the cage off with a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 screws. You could pull the body and cage off the Baja Rey. On this one I did the same thing, but unfortunately the front shock tower has to come off to get the cage completely off, which means you have to take all those screws out, and you have to take all the body screws out to get the body off, to get the front shock tower loose. Then you can take everything off. So one thing's for sure, you're not going to want to wrench on this thing very much, but I don't think you're going to have to, because with my experience with the Baja Rey, these things are tough. So now that we got the vehicle handling the way it should, I believe we're good. And I've got half the investment in this ride than I do in the Yeti. I believe this Losi may outperform the Yeti at this point. And when I say the Yeti, I'm talking about my high performance Yeti, not stock Yeti. Out of the box, I would say the Baja Rey probably outperforms a stock Yeti. But I had a high performance Yeti to compare it to, so it was a little bit of a letdown in the beginning. But I'm happy now guys. This thing is mean and lean now. It's a lot lighter than my Yeti, and it's fast, it's powerful. Now, one disclaimer here, I did not use the 2200 kV Leopard motor. The shaft on that motor was too long. When I installed it, it was rubbing on the inner gearbox, so I could not use that motor. What I did use, I used the same 3100 kV Chinese motor that is in my Axial Yeti Rock Racer. I've used that motor a number of times. It's you can find it on eBay. It's around $17 to $25 usually, depending on which seller you get it from. And with the Fuse 130 amp ESC, it does not cog at all. So quick and easy fix there for the cogging guys. Just invest about 20 bucks and you can swap the motor out. Wind up using the 2800 kV in my Hobeo Hyper 10, and the 3100 is now in here, and it's a great fit. If you're curious about the 3100 kV Chinese motor, check out my Axial Yeti Rock Racer or my Axial Yeti Score Trophy Truck videos. It's the motor that I featured in those. Also my Hobeo Hyper 10, I had that motor in it, so it's been featured in a number of my videos, so go back and check those if you're curious about that 3100 kV motor that's very cheap, very reliable, very powerful, and has next to zero cogging. So anyway, that'll do it for this video, guys. As always, like and subscribe to Shoe Fits, and have yourself a great day.